Hi everyone, Donna here. I'm the owner here at Bookkeeping Made Simple. I am going to talk a little bit about change. Okay. There's a couple of things that I've been really thinking about. I was just listening to the Mindset Mentor, which is one of the podcasts that I listen to regularly. And he was talking about how most people really do live in mediocrity. Okay. We kind of create our routines and we live basically in a grave with the ends kicked out. Sounds a little harsh, but that's really the case. People get into their ruts and their routines and they do the same things over and over, and they don't really live their lives. They do what's comfortable. And it's important to get out of your comfort zone in order to achieve just about any goals that you've set for yourself. I'm in the middle of some huge changes in my life. I just graduated from college. I now have a bachelor's of science in accounting. I'm starting my MBA at the beginning of next month. So June 1st, I start my MBA program. I am emptying my nest this year, the whole thing. My second daughter, Mercedes, has found her first apartment. She's moving out on Saturday. My son, Jared, has a full scholarship to the University of Utah. So by the end of summer, he will be living up in Salt Lake City and hopefully in the dorms. I'm hoping he's in the dorms. That was a good experience for me when I went to college the first time. Or, after the bat last year, maybe it won't be such a good experience. I don't know. It'll be different. It will not be living at home. So they're going through some big changes, and that means big changes for me because I am the oldest of 8 kids. I've been basically taking care of kids on some level since I was 1.5 years old. And then there's some other personal things that are going on that may involve change. My son also graduated from high school, or he's graduating in 2 weeks, and he achieved his Eagle Scout, and that means I don't have to be involved in scouting anymore. That's a lot of change, and that's in a month. So in the middle of all that, I have to learn how to be an empty nester. I don't think I'm old enough for this stuff, but I have to learn how to be an empty nester. It is definitely a learning curve. It is not something that I am used to. I'm not used to being alone. I come from a very large family, and I am marrying into another large family, so I'm just not used to this idea of just being alone. So that's a change. And the thing is, what is this doing? One moment, please. Sorry. The thing is, we're kind of pre-wired to think of change as a bad thing. It's scary. It's the unknown. We're going to have to face things that we didn't have to face before. It's really not comfortable. So with that said, we can't really achieve anything unless we're willing to change. Now, and we all go through changes. We go through changes throughout our whole lives. We move out of our parents' home. We go to college. We graduate from college, or we drop out of college, or we don't go to college and we move out. We start our first job. We change jobs. We get married. We may get divorced. We may have kids. These are all massive changes. We may have friends who have passed, or family members who passed to the other side, or but all of these things are change, and they're uncomfortable. Even the good ones, like getting married or having a new baby. It's a huge shift. It's a huge shift. It was a huge shift for me to go from being the big sister to end up being the mom. That was, mom wasn't there. What the heck? So it's just a huge shift. It's a shift in thinking. It's a shift in mindset, and it's not comfortable at the beginning. Now, I am one of those people that I just deal with whatever I have to deal with. I've had people say, oh, I'm sorry you had such a hard life. And I go, I didn't really think it was hard. It just was what was required of me. My childhood was wonderful. My adulthood was affected by some poor decisions. And I wouldn't say that my life was difficult. I would just say it was not the same as everyone else's. And so a big part of going through change is going through mindset. And a lot of the mindset that I have, I was raised by parents who believe in lifelong learning. School is not this is what I was taught. School, and I believe it, is not the be-all end-all of education. In fact, most education doesn't occur in school. The reason I go back to school is to learn some things that I didn't know. I did that a lot, getting my bachelor's, and also to get into a disciplined habit of learning every evening. You'd think after a couple of years my butt would fit into my chair better. So we want to have the proof that we're educated and that we've learned what we need to learn, and that other people can see it. The fact is that I'm highly educated because I read a lot and I think a lot about what I've read, and I do my best to read at least a book a week, if not several times more than that. If I'm reading novels, I can go through them pretty quickly. If I'm reading nonfiction, I have to really slow down to digest them. So it averages to be about a book a week these days, with all of the other obligations that I have. I'm looking forward to ramping that back up and letting it be mostly novels again. But I am a firm believer in reading a lot and then putting those things into practice. And most people will read books that are on personal development, but then they won't implement them. And the biggest thing that I have found for myself is that I am really good at starting things, and it's a bit of a challenge sometimes to finish them. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow because I really want to discuss that. It is a lack of consistency, and I've noticed in my personal habits. It doesn't apply to my clients. I am very, very regimented about my clients and making sure my clients are up to date, my clients are doing well, and my clients are, because they pay my bills. But when it comes to working out, eating right, making these videos, working on my business instead of in my business, it's really easy to allow that to be sidetracked because, oh my gosh, I've got to take care of this fire, I've got to put out this fire, I've got to take care of this other thing. So that's huge concerns. But the biggest thing, one of the things that I have found though, is that I have clients that will come on and they say, well, I know I'm having problems with my books. I know this. And I know that I need to hand them off. And I'm like, great, we'll get you started. We know what to do. We've done this before. And then they say, I don't want to. I want to do the things that have been keeping me stuck all these years because that's comfortable. That was why I wanted to really talk about change, because we all go through change. And that's a huge change for a lot of people, to feel like maybe they don't have control over their finances because they're handing their finances off to somebody else. And it's, kind of a fair thing to be concerned about, but it also keeps them trapped in the same stuckness. And it doesn't really matter. It could be a question of going to the doctor and not wanting to go to the doctor even though you know that there's something wrong, because you don't want him to tell you that there's something wrong. Or it could be knowing that you need to file your taxes, but you really don't want to file your taxes because you know you're going to owe a lot of money. So you don't ever you don't ever call us. It could be, that's a big one, by the way. People will be afraid at the financial elephant in the room, and then they don't file their taxes. And really what happens is, it's much like going to the doctor. If there's a problem, it just gets worse. And there is a time limit on how long the IRS, they will go after you for taxes from your date of birth to the present day, but they only give you refunds up to 5 years in the past. So there's always a time limit. Okay, it's, you know, my son put off getting his Eagle till 4 days before his 18th birthday. I was sweating bullets. I finally got his certificate, so I feel better. Yes, he is a card-carrying Eagle Scout now, but he kept putting it off because that meant huge changes. And it was, and it's normal, it's human nature. So what do you do when you recognize a change needs to be made and you don't want to do it because it's change? One of the other places, by the way, that I saw this a lot was when I worked in corporate America. I worked for a hospital back east. It was probably the worst work experience of my life, except for one or two people, one person that I'm still friends with today. It was horrible. It's horrible. But we would go through these times when there was concern about being laid off. Okay, there was always rumors flying. There was so much office politics, it was insane. And so we would go through these times when there would be rumors flying and, oh, we were all going to get pink slipped. And I was the only one that really seemed to maintain her equilibrium, because my thing was, well, I kind of accidentally got this job. I can find another one. There are jobs. And I had no intention of staying in that town. I had every intention of moving out here to Utah. At that point, I was really excited when I was able to finally move. And by the way, that was another huge change, was when I moved from Western Kentucky to just south of Salt Lake City. And that was, yeah, I'm basically a city girl. And I had to adjust at 14 from living in Seattle, in the big city. Seattle's a pretty small city, but living in the city to living in a more rural area. And then I had to adjust back to moving from Western Kentucky, where my friends from high school, or the people I went to high school with, I'm not friends with any of them anymore. We've just drifted apart. I have an entirely different worldview than they do. I was looking at this going, I'm going to make something of myself, and I'm going to travel the world, and I'm going to do all these things. Some of them, most of those things I haven't done yet, but they're still on my list. And I was surrounded by people who said, I'm going to spend the summer chopping tobacco, and then I'm going to get some cattle, and then I'm going to just do the same thing my parents did. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that my worldview was entirely different. I was like, I'm changing everything. I'm changing everything. I felt like an outsider. So that changed how I viewed people. But I was like, I'm into change. I'm going to travel. I'm going to talk to people who are nothing like me. I'm going to, in fact, I ended up marrying a soldier and lived in Germany for 3 years. And I wasn't afraid to do things, and I wasn't afraid to make mistakes. And I wasn't afraid to step out and do things that are less than comfortable. These videos are not comfortable. It is kind of weird sitting in a room by myself talking to my computer. So when you need to make a change, here's what you do. You do it. If you need to change a habit, that's usually the biggest thing that people have problems with. They will struggle with handing things over to us, but that has to be just a decision. You make the decision, you follow through with the decision. It's only a few steps. But then a lot of the changes that people want to make, we see this at New Year's. I'm going to lose 50 pounds. I'm going to meditate every morning. I'm going to read 1,000 books this year. I'm going to get 4 degrees. They make these huge, I'm going to learn 6 languages. They make these huge goals, and usually weight loss and education and something job related. And I'm going to be Miss Universe by May, and I'm 100 pounds overweight, that kind of thing. And so they set these unrealistic goals. First mistake. And so what I started doing, I don't make goals in January, especially fitness goals. Fitness goals in January, I like to work out outside. I do a lot of yoga. I do a lot of swimming. I started swimming with my daughter every morning. Fitness goals in the dead of winter, it's just too easy to be like, oh, I'm going back to bed. So what I've started doing instead is I started making them in April, at the end of the first quarter, when the sun is coming out, and when we're coming back into daylight savings, when we have longer, or daylight is shifting more towards the evening hours because we're going back to daylight savings, when the days are getting warmer and it's more pleasant to be outside. That's when I make my fitness goals. Now, I don't make a goal to lose 50 pounds. I don't ever do that. I have lost a lot of weight, and I have been extremely fit. I'm working on it again. But my goal has always been something along the lines of, I will swim 3 days a week, and I will log 10,000 steps on my smartwatch every day. And then I put it on my calendar. It's warm at noon these days, so I am taking lunchtime and I am going for a walk. I'm going to walk up a hill for 30 minutes, and then I'm going to turn around and come down, and that will be my lunch hour. And I will get my 10,000 steps. Now, life does happen. We do get a little derailed. I have days when I need to go out of town and I do a lot of driving, and it's really kind of hard to get 10,000 steps in when you're sitting behind a steering wheel all the time. So then I will kind of adjust that to, I will automatically be like, I'm going to forgive myself today and pick it up again tomorrow, if something like that happens. Or I will get up a little earlier and take care of the steps before I even get in the car. My other goal is to do yoga every night before I go to bed, at least 45 minutes. And that one's been a little bit harder because by the time it's bedtime, all I really want to do is go to bed. But it's one of those things that I really have to do because I feel so much better. It usually takes me about a week. The first hour of yoga is just so relaxing. And if I do the walking, and I do the swimming, and I do the yoga, over time, I'm going to see the results of that. But I have to be consistent. So I've got walking, 10,000 steps a day. I've got my videos every day that I have to do. These are not comfortable. I have swimming 3 days a week with my daughter. I have the walking, the yoga, the swimming, the videos. So these are 4 new habits that I'm trying to create. I'm also trying to create habits of writing for an hour, whether it's in my journal or whether it's copy for the website. I've got to write for an hour. What I do with these is I actually book the time on my calendar because I am a flibbertigibbet when it comes to my personal life, not with my clients, but I am kind of spacey sometimes. I will forget to do things that I absolutely intended to do. I take care of my clients and my kids before I take care of me. And so I'm having to put myself ahead of these things that I know that are going to pay huge dividends ahead of some of the other things that I needed to do. And then I find that when I do that, everything else falls into place. It's just a different mindset to have. Instead of saying, oh, I have to drop everything and I have to respond to this email, I have times in my calendar where I say, it's 11:30. I need to check my email. And I don't check it again until 4:30, so I can be done with email before I go home. or before I shut the door and I'm done for the day. So these are the habits that I'm creating, and they are all a change. And I'm using every tool in my toolbox to make sure that I can stay on track. One of the tools is to sit down on Friday and plan the next week, including walking, swimming, yoga, including taking my meds, any meds that I need to take, any supplements I need to take, including those are the big ones for right now. And then, like I keep telling my daughter, when these become habits, I will then add another habit, so I'll stack. So my big things have been the walking, and I've been pretty consistent on that. And then the videos, which I was consistent on for a little bit. I got a restart. But it's a lot of determining that this is what's going to happen, and then what tools can I use to make sure it happens. For me, it's my calendar. I'm calendar driven. I will move things around on my calendar, but I'm very calendar driven, so that when I'm sitting at my desk, it's a little bit harder when I'm out and about and I get a reminder to do something that requires me to be at my desk. But I try to schedule the out and about time and then say, I have to be home by 3. I have other things I have to do at my computer. So I try to have everything on a schedule. I try not to overschedule, and I try to make sure that I am doing the things that are important. And by that, by the way, I mean, and I want to talk about this, I probably will talk about this on Monday. Hopefully I remember. That is, I want to talk about, I use Stephen Coveys' Quadra method on a lot of things, and that is, we have things that are in our lives that are urgent and important. We have things, and that is filing your taxes. It's tax day is Monday. It's urgent. Now it's urgent and it's important. And then we have the things that are urgent but not important. This is a prime example of it. My phone rings. That creates a sense of urgency. I usually want to look at it and make sure it's not a spam call, because I want to make sure that I am only taking the calls that I need to take, the ones from potential clients, the ones from current clients, the ones from my bookkeepers, okay, the ones from family. Family always goes to the front of the line. But I want to make sure I'm only taking the important calls. So if they're urgent and important, if it's a family member that calls, it's urgent and important just by default. Sometimes I will look at it and go, it's not urgent, but it is important, so I will call them back later. The catch with accounting is everybody thinks everything is urgent all the time. The problem with that is when everything's urgent, nothing is. Sassy, what are you doing down there? My cat's stuck. Sassy. You need to be down. She's a neighborhood cat. She likes to visit. So when everything's urgent, pretty soon nothing's urgent, because we can't do everything urgently at that very moment all the time. It's just humanly impossible. So I try to prioritize things. Is it truly urgent? Most people can leave me a message. Clients I'll usually answer, and then I will refer them back to their bookkeepers. I try to make sure that I am running the schedules properly. So there's things that are urgent that are not important, and that's if someone just wants to call to shoot the breeze. They think it's urgent. And I will usually just decide it's not urgent. I can call them back later. Then there's the things that are Important but not urgent. Now this is where you should be working most of the time. This is where you create the most change, and that is the urgent and not important is your fitness. Sorry, the important but not urgent. Important but not urgent. Sassy, get down. Just climbing on my printer. Important but not urgent is fitness, nutrition, filing taxes in January, or at least getting them ready to file. If you decide that you want to postpone actually filing them and you already decided to file an extension, you want to do that before the last minute. And the catch of things that are urgent but not important is, important but not urgent, is that it's easy to push them to the back of the desk, and that is bookkeeping, accounting, tax, sometimes payroll. It's important. You've got to get it done. Nobody likes doing it except for us weirdos. And so it's really easy to push it to the back of the desk and say, I just don't want to do it. And then it becomes both urgent and important when the IRS shows up at your door. I know a couple of people who have been in enforcement for the IRS, and they say they don't call. They just turn up, and they know where you are, and they will show up and they will attach your shit, and you, pardon my language, and you're done. You're done. They will send several letters before that, and if you don't respond, that's something that's important. People sometimes don't think it's urgent because they don't want to face the elephant in the room, and then they find out later that, yeah, it was important. So that's where you want to spend most of your time, and that's where you can create your habits that create positive change in your life. And then it's important, I think, also to look at change, any change, as an opportunity for growth. This is what set me apart from my colleagues back east, was that everything that changed. If I lost my position, I wasn't too worried about it. It was an opportunity. I had gained experience, I had gained knowledge, I had gained information, I had gained education. I could take that and I could go somewhere else where I was more appreciated. And in the end, that's exactly what I did. I wasn't worried about losing my job. I wasn't worried about, in fact, some of the people that I worked with would complain that that they did not want to raise because they were afraid they would move up to another tax bracket. And I was like, what? Literally, they were afraid they would move up to the next tax bracket and they would lose some of their benefits. And I'd be like, no, that's a good thing. So they were very much about living stuck. They just were mediocre people, I guess. They could have been great if they'd had a different mindset. So embrace change. Work in, and I will talk more about the 7 habits, the quadrant system for determining whether or not to do something. And then we will, I have a list of things that I want to do videos on, and I've really got to make sure that they all get done. So that is it for today. Thank you for joining us. As always, if you enjoy these videos, please like, share, and subscribe. I don't advertise to grow this. This is just, hopefully it's helping. I try to keep these videos on subjects that are business oriented. I have heard podcasts that were, they were women-oriented business owners. I don't do that. I just think business owners are business owners, and I don't really care what they look like. And while I do recognize that some people have unique challenges, I think I try to make sure that these are applicable to everybody. So if you got anything good out of this, please like, share, and subscribe. Shoot me a comment. Let me know what you thought, and I will talk to you soon.